Hello and welcome to a new edition of Interview with Irene. Today my wonderful guest is the brilliant Sherry Ellis, who is Executive Director of the Georgia Philharmonic, and she also plays the viola with them, and also is an accomplished author, so I am very, very honored to have you today.
Oh, I'm very excited to be here, Irene. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. And so was wondering, could we start by you telling us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So
Mhm.
let me see. I am a professional musician. I play and teach violin, viola, and piano. And I recently started a job as the executive director of the Georgia Philharmonic. So that keeps me very busy. And I'm an author. I've been doing that for about 15 years now. My first book was That Baby Woke Me Up Again. Um, I didn't intend to be an author. I always loved writing books, and I wrote books when I was a little kid, like a little 8-year-old kid, writing these little stories and drawing pictures. But I never thought I'd be an author. How that happened was when my son was a little baby. He was not a very good sleeper, so I sat in the rocking chair one night. I was completely sleep deprived, and this poem started going through my head. So every time I went back into that rocking chair, this poem kept going. And by the end of the week, the whole story was in my head. And it would have stayed there until I shared it with my daughter. I said, oh, listen to this, what I came up with. She's like, Mom, that's really good. It should be a book. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I became an author. I did some homework and figured that out, and I got it published. And that's how it all started. And that was 15 years ago.
Aw, that's a wonderful story. And yeah, sometimes we get inspiration from the place we least expected. So,
That is so true. Very true.
and, um, so how did you come about getting your position as executive director?
Now, that's an interesting question. Well, the orchestra had been looking for an executive director, and it wasn't really something that was on my radar screen. But because of personal issues going on with my life, I decided that I needed some extra income. So I saw it and like, okay, I'll apply for it. And so I did, and apparently they decided that I would be a good candidate for the job, and that's how I got it. So here I am.
Wonderful. And what are some of your duties as the director?
What do I do? Oh, everything. um, I do a lot of marketing, so you probably see some extra stuff going on Facebook and getting the word out. I do a lot of organizing, just figuring out what needs to be done. I'm working in development things right now. I'm helping out on personnel. So it's really what the orchestra needs to grow and run, really. So it's a really interesting job. There's a lot to it, and it's varied. There's something different every day that I'm working on.
That's so cool. And in terms of your writing, are you working on something now?
Oh yeah, I do the Bubba and Squirt's Big Dig to China. That was my first book, and the second one, Bubba and Squirt's Mayan Treasure, was recently accepted. So that's in publication. That's going through the process right now. It'll be out in fall of 2020. But I'm also working on more books for this series. I'm kind of going for a 5-book series. So I'm busy trying to figure out how that's going to work and coming up with the plot development. And so I'm really busy working on that. And then marketing. Yeah, just never ending writing stuff.
Wonderful. And we're looking forward to your new work. Um, so going back to the music, when did you start playing the viola and piano and violin?
Okay. Well, I've always been interested in music. From like the time I was 3 years old, I always gravitated toward musical toys. And there's like a picture I know of me sitting on my dad's lap when I was 3 playing a guitar. Um, but I didn't start piano lessons. That was my first instrument. I didn't start that until I was 10 years old. I taught myself a little bit when I was 8, and my parents saw that I was very interested in music, so they decided to invest in lessons for me. So that's where that started. So piano was when I was 10. And then when I got to high school, when I was 13, I wanted to play the piano in the orchestra. So I auditioned, but they really didn't need a piano player for the orchestra. They needed a viola player. And at that time, I had no idea what a viola was. They told me, well, we'll give you a scholarship if you play the viola. I'm like, oh, okay, money, I'll take that. So I said, okay, I'll do this. And I was pleasantly surprised. I loved the viola. It was love at first play, the beautiful, rich sound of it. And I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I got pretty good. And that's how I ended up with viola. And I ended up becoming a music major. And that was another thing that I wasn't actually going to do. Everybody encouraged me to go be a doctor, go to medical school, be a doctor, make a lot of money. But the orchestra director told me that I could probably get a full tuition scholarship if I applied at Cleveland State University. I'm like, okay, more money, that's good. So I ended up auditioning, and I did get the full tuition scholarship plus a presidential scholarship. So I ended up being a music major instead of a person going to medical school. So that's how that happened. That was viola. So I was 13 when I started viola. And then after that, I started violin. I was 22 when I started violin. And that was just out of necessity. Another story about that. I worked in a bank for a little while, and while I was there, I met a lady, and she had 2 daughters who played violin in middle school, and she was looking for a violin teacher for them. And I didn't play violin at that time; I played viola. But she asked me if I'd be interested in teaching them, and I thought, well, how hard can it be to switch to violin? So I'm okay, I'll do that. So that's what I did. I got the books that I had learned viola on. They of course, were transcribed from violin originally, so it was easy for me to learn the violin, and that's how it started. And I loved teaching, and I felt like that was my real niche in life. And I've just been doing it for, 27 years now. So that's how that started.
Wonderful. That's really impressive. Like, it sounds like you really lived a full life in how you just stumbled upon these things, but because you are truly gifted and worked hard, they worked out so well for you. So
It really has, and it is. I had a lot of stumbling through things, but hard work pays off. So I've always done that. So I've been really happy with how my career has gone.
Wonderful. Do you have any interests outside of work, outside of the music and writing, or
I do. I like exploring. I used to be a scuba diving instructor. Another thing I did. And I do like water and scuba diving. I like hiking. I do a lot of hiking. That's like my exercise, going to some of these parks, and we have some beautiful places in Georgia that I've been going to. So I enjoy that. I like exploring things. Of course, I like music and theater, so I try to see some of that too and support local art groups. So yeah, just a varied interests.
wonderful. And that's incredible too. And thank you so much for joining us today. I hope we'll have you again.
Oh, I'd be delighted to, and thanks for having me.
Wonderful. And thank you for joining me for another interview, Irene. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.